Good afternoon and welcome to Heart to Heart at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. This is a place where you can find your loving self and understand about yourself and your sexuality, relationships, and pretty much everything in life. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice. And I'm offering this program today along with my dear friend, colleague, mentor, and person that we have shared so much throughout the past 18 years academically, for work related, personal, everything, Dr. Robert Jaffe. Welcome.
Thank you. And welcome everybody. We're here to share with you some of what we've learned over many decades of study and practice about how to be more loving and joyful every minute, every hour, every day of our lives, and recognizing that we have the power to do that, just as we have the power to make ourselves miserable, right? So it's an interesting concept because a lot of people don't know that they have any power at all. They think that it's circumstances. They think if she didn't say this, then I wouldn't behave that way. If this didn't happen to me, then I wouldn't be this way. If people were nicer to me, or if this person didn't cut me off, I wouldn't have had to go into rage. And so when we believe that we are at the effect of everything around us, we feel powerless and we feel helpless, and usually we feel enraged as well because we're angry at the fact that everybody else seems to have the power and we don't.
Exactly.
And our job here is to help you to understand that you have the power to change how you think. And if you change how you think, you will change how you feel. Your thoughts coalesce into emotions. And if you change how you feel, you will change how you behave. And if you change how you behave, you will change the responses that you get from other people. And if you change the responses that you get from other people into more positive responses, you will be happier, and so will those around you.
So we're talking about the chain effect here.
We're talking about the realization that you have the power to change your thoughts, which ultimately will change your life.
And with that, we would like to invite you to please call us so that we can understand about your perspective, your experiences. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. And also you can find our contact information at the webpage at KMET radio station. So, Dr. Jaffe, thank you for that wonderful introduction. As part of what you said, what comes to my mind, is when we know that negative emotions have only three places to show up, right?
Yes.
We either become sick, we physically become ill,
right,
or we do self-sabotaging behavior, or we kind of project our negative emotions onto somebody else. We're usually the closest person that we know in life.
The people we're close to.
Right? And so we do that. The third one, we do that by blaming, by judging, right? Or by just negative reflection on whatever they say to us, right? So basically, we are looking for the lay language for that. We are looking for a dumping place of our negative emotion.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So when that happens, and here's my point, when that happens, if I'm looking for somebody to blame, if I'm looking for somebody to judge, if I'm saying, oh, the whole world is negative to me and that's why I am in this, situation, negative situation that I am, what I pick up is a level of lack of accountability. Am I accurate here?
Well, You could say accountability. You can also say responsibility.
Responsibility,
Right.
yes. So if I'm not accountable to myself, or if I'm not responsible to myself, if I don't have self-responsibility, right, I am looking at external situations, factors, people to blame for lack of what makes me happy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that can come uh, just at the level of full awareness that I don't want to take responsibility for anything in my life. Either we haven't learned it, or we just choose not to take responsibility, or we do that subconsciously because of how we have been raised,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So how we have been raised has a lot to do with our childhood and how our parents or caregiver attended to us, right? For example, if our parents were among the group of people that at every move of a child, they jump and they facilitate everything the child needs, or they assume that's what the child needs. Basically, they are taking away some of the most important life skills that the child needs to learn about, to learn how to take care of himself or herself, do problem solving, associate with others, understand things from their own perspective, try things, make mistakes and learn from them. Uh, so I think when that happens, and if something goes wrong, the anticipation, the expectation is that somebody else has to fix it, or it's their fault that they didn't achieve something, or they didn't, they're not happy for whatever reason, right? And I think that's the trend that people grow up with, or at least this is at least one of them that people grow up with, and then in adulthood they follow the same pattern of blaming, judging other people for their unhappiness.
That's very true, and it's also. I'm not going to say it's ubiquitous, but it's certainly not true for everyone. But it's true for many, many people who are at the effect of the way that their parents raised them. Um, when parents have a great deal of power, uh, and they do have a lot of control over their children, especially when the child is very young. And the control is not just over their behavior, but it's also over the child, over how the child responds emotionally. The old saying, "You cry, and I'll give you something to cry about,"
Mhm.
which, of course, on its face is totally absurd, right? If the child is crying, they're already unhappy, and why would you want to make them more unhappy? But the reason that parents say that is because the parent themselves um, is very unhappy inside of them. They need to cry, and they don't feel like they should be crying. They don't feel the freedom to cry. They don't feel like they're going to have anybody to help them when they cry. So they hold back their own tears. And when the child is crying, that's why it annoys them so much, is because the parent is being triggered to want to cry also, and the parent doesn't believe that they're entitled to, or it's safe to, or that they can. So they try to stifle the child, so the child isn't triggering them. And so what they're doing is they're trying to get the child to be quiet so that they don't feel like they don't feel triggered within themselves. And when you try to get your child to be quiet when the child needs to cry, that child will start internalizing that message. And then, in many cases, the child will then grow up and give the same message to their child. You cry, and I'll give you something to cry about, because the child wasn't given permission to cry when they were young.
Yeah.
So it becomes an intergenerational transfer of negative messages.
Right. And then when that happens, it's interesting to look at, to notice that trend, feels like normal,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about it in session with clients that they have that kind of a behavior and experiences, they become surprised that because growing up with believing what is normal to them, not telling them that this isn't normal, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes like a shocking surprise,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So we don't use the word normal generally
Right.
in our in our therapy sessions.
What I say, that's something that seems not to be working for them, and
That's
then and
that's
then
that's different.
that's it, and then they
Yeah.
say, but we've always been like that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right.
Right. Normal is oftentimes not something that people want to be, because normal often is injured. There's so much emotional injury going on that normal becomes someone who's been injured and acts in life in an injured way. There are people who even aspire to and achieve great levels of financial success, and also great levels of success in business, who are inside very, very injured. But so what they do is they compensate for that injury by using the part of their brain that isn't injured, which is the smart part, the left brain, not the right brain. The right brain carries our emotions and is going to be injured, but the left brain can still figure things out and be very sharp in business and in other ways and rise to great levels of success. And then people look up to them, not realizing that that person uh, is somebody who has figured out how to make money or how to achieve, let's say, high levels in government, but emotionally they're still very, very injured. And so they're not really somebody to be emulated. They're not
Mm-hmm.
someone to be looked up to, except perhaps in some of the knowledge that they might have in business.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that you have a note about ego, that
Mm-hmm.
I assume that that's what you wish to discuss today. And how much of what we're talking about, in your opinion, relates to ego and ego functioning?
So the term ego has been defined in many different ways,
Mhm.
um, and
And you and I are writing a book
and
about it.
we're writing a book about the ego and the spirit. We're also writing a book about relationships and sexuality. We have two books that we're writing. The one about ego is we are defining ego here as that part of the human being that is confined to their personality, and that part of the human being which wants uh, ego-based success in their life. What is an ego-based success? Well, it usually comes down to money and power.
Mm-hmm.
Money and power are make the ego feel safe. The ego is that part of us that you and I have agreed upon, is that part of us which wants to survive at any cost. So the ego, because it's survival oriented, uh, looks at every situation and evaluates every situation and says, if I have power and if I have money, which is a form of power, then I can survive because I can use my power over other people and I can use my money to buy the things and control the situation so that I will get to survive no matter what. I'm not worried if I have $100 million in the bank about where my next meal is going to come from. And I'm not worried about where I'm going to go home to a nice place. I'm not worried about that because I have all this money or I have this position in government that is guaranteeing me safety. And as a result, I don't have to worry, so I am safe. And so the ego's primary consideration is to keep us feeling safe, physically safe.
physically safe. So with that, we just got notice for our commercial break, and we will continue with this discussion after a short few minutes. Please join us. Welcome back from our commercial break. This is Heart to Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are talking about ego and ego functioning and negative emotions and blaming and judgment and how all of these come together along here with Dr. Robert Jaffe. And so our phone number is 951-922-3532. And we would like to invite you to please join us, call us, tell us what you think about what we offer here. The topic today is very insightful, and it's more or less many people have experienced their ego functioning, or they have been in touch with their ego, and the topic of ego comes to the conversations, to the tables, a lot. But then again, everybody has a different format of defining ego, and we have seen many definitions and behavior as a result of ego functioning here in our therapy sessions. And Dr. Jaffe and myself, we are writing a book about that. And here today, we are going to just talk about an aspect of it.
Right. So we have written it's not a pamphlet, it's a few pages on ego and spirit. It's called Lose Your Ego, Find Yourself. And we would like to distribute it to you guys.
Yes, I think we can upload it to KMET webpage, to our page, so that people can download that.
Right. Yes. So we're going to upload this. It's called Lose Your Ego, Find Yourself. And it's questions to ask yourself. So I'm going to read the introduction. Judgment is the ego's way of making itself right and the other person wrong. The ego thrives on being right and loves being better than someone else. So these are some questions you may consider asking yourself. The first question is the interaction between myself and the other person involving my need to be right or better than the other person?
Very deep question.
Very good question. And so if it in fact is involving your need to be right or better than the other person, the question is, why are you involving yourself in that? Why is that important? Why does that matter to you, to be right or to be better than someone else?
Well, I have an example for that, as a matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I have this couple that they have gone, through so much in their lives, right? They were not sure about their relationship, and then they got together, and then finally they got married, and business-wise there have been ups and downs, but overall, they are happy about where they are today.
Mm-hmm.
However, one theme that's from the beginning has been very apparent among the relationship was that, the husband believed that he is better than the wife, right? And with that in mind, every time they got into a corner or they got into an argument, or there has been a frustrating situation, or there have been expectations and all of that, the husband, complains that, how come she doesn't get it? But in fact, she does get it, but he is looking for a dumping place of negative emotion.
Which is what you were talking about at the beginning of the show.
Right.
Right.
And this is what we're talking about, that I am a better person. Okay, so that with that belief, and that's what I was talking about, accountability and self-responsibility. If I consider myself a better person, then I get myself permission. I give myself permission to consider the person next to me as not as equal as I am, not as smart as I am, not as good as I am,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And in particular, if the person next to me is receptive of that,
Mm-hmm.
because of their own, self-confidence, level of self-confidence, or their own view of life and view of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, that's definitely a function of ego. I have to be right,
Mm-hmm.
right? Therefore, I'm not going to take accountability for my actions. I'm not going to take responsibility for how I'm thinking. But I give myself permission, because I want to be the better person, to make this person wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But what I believe is her or is his or her responsibility to do for me, or not to do for me, but in general to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person is responsible to do something, and I see that it is not done. So me, the better person, gives myself permission to blame this individual, to judge this individual.
And so, what is the payoff?
The payoff is a limited time frame of satisfaction and release of tension, right? But then again, the the negative, the bigger negative part of that is ruining the relationship.
Well, it releases endorphins and adrenaline,
Right.
right? And so, going back to it being survival, if we have an adrenaline rush, then we feel powerful. And in fact, we are more powerful because we can now fight or we can run away more in a more efficient way than before the adrenaline rush. So the payoff for the ego is you get an adrenaline rush, and it makes you feel stronger, and you believe that you need that because you feel threatened when the other person is telling you that you're wrong. So we were saying, okay, it's about physical survival. Well, if we're living in a state which many of us are in this country, living in a state where we are not on a day-to-day basis threatened with our physical survival. We do have enough to eat. We do have shelter. Uh, we have a place where we can sleep safely. Many of us, not all of us. At that, since we have that, the ego then says, "Well, what's my job? If it's physical survival and I have physical survival down pat, then what am I doing here?" And so the ego then shifts its focus into emotions, and the ego then starts to uh, believe that emotional survival is the same as physical survival, and emotional survival means feeling better than, feeling like I'm the prayer, I'm not the prey. I'm the hunter, I'm not the hunted. And so when people say, "Oh, you're wrong," that ego part of us takes that as, "Oh, I am vulnerable. I'm vulnerable because I'm not right, and therefore I can be injured."
And that is when we look at vulnerability as a sign of weakness,
Yes,
as a sign of
powerless.
powerlessness,
Hmm.
right? Where in fact that's not the real definition of vulnerability.
Well, no, vulnerability to many people who are caught in ego says that I'm powerless.
Yes.
And I'm not, and since the ego says survival is my number one goal, how can I survive if I'm powerless? So being wrong means I'm powerless. And if you're telling me I'm wrong, that means I have to be afraid of you, because if you see that I'm powerless, you're going to attack me. And then I will be powerless to defend myself, and then I will die. It's about death. Even though at the intellectual level, with our smart prefrontal cortex, we're not thinking I'm going to die, but at a feeling level, we feel very threatened. We feel as though we're about to be attacked and we're going to die. So the ego's job is to make sure that we don't feel threatened and we're not going to die. So the ego jumps in and starts arguing. Well, what's the point of arguing? Arguing, all arguing does is for me to tell you I'm right and you're wrong, and for you to tell me no, I'm right and you're wrong. So when we are in that place and we feel as though we're caught up in a fight for survival, there is no capitulation. I can't admit that you're right because that means I'm going to die, and you can't admit that I'm right because that means you're going to die. And unfortunately, I believe, and perhaps you'll agree with me, I don't know, but I believe that that's why our country is struggling so much, is because we're caught up in ego in our government.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot admit that, oh, I may have a part of the solution, but I may not have the whole solution, and you may have a part of the solution, but you don't have the whole solution. But we can put our heads together and come up with a place where we can both be satisfied, maybe not totally, but it's certainly better than nothing. We can't get to that point because our ego gets in our way.
Yes, and the issue of ego, of course, has been with human beings since the beginning of humankind.
Hmm.
Right.
Correct, correct. And at the beginning of when human beings came into existence, and for eons, it has been survival. It's been survival, and it's been ego, and we love to watch that. We love to watch good versus evil on movies, right?
Exactly.
We love
Yeah.
to read about good versus evil. We love to root for the good guy and hate the bad guy because that makes us feel safe. I'm one of the good guys and you're one of the bad guys, and therefore I'm going to survive and you're not. And how many of us don't like a good western where the fastest draw wins, right?
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And if that's not ego, well, what is?
Good old Western movies.
Good old Western
I have
movies.
to say I still enjoy them.
Well, yeah, because
You
our
know.
ego loves it.
Yeah.
It makes life so simple,
Yes.
right?
There's this old TV serial that I used to watch much earlier when I was younger. And there's still, on the air, Waltons, the Waltons.
The Waltons,
The
yeah.
Waltons.
Yeah, the Waltons. Good night, John Boy.
Good night, John Boy. I mean, I just love that movie,
Uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
every time I have a chance and it's available, I don't miss it. It just gives me such a relaxing feeling, the good old times
The good old times.
when there was not so much of a politics going on, when there was not so much of a bad news going on, where news was only about the weather and good stuff, but now news, my God, it's like when you listen to the news these days, it's like you walk away traumatized with massive amount of PTSD, seriously, because it's all about where an accident happened, how many people died, who got robbed, who got raped, who got shot, and who where there is a destruction, where there is a politician screwing up, where there is a disease. I mean, my God, I mean, you don't hear anything about love. You don't hear anything about good life. You don't hear anything about I don't know, a good news somewhere. Or is it just me
Well, I
looking
don't
at
know if
that?
it's just you. I think it's there's definite look.
And
Our
but what I'm saying is all about this ego. The more we stay in the stage of fear, it is like the more society benefits from it.
Well, the society benefits financially
Yeah,
because fear is the thing that sells.
right.
Fear sells newspapers. Not that newspapers are that are that popular
Right.
anymore, but fear sells. Whether it's on a news feed, a newspaper, a movie, fear. why do people, go see the movie Halloween, right? So that, I mean, I'm dating myself, but all of the derivatives of Halloween, where they can sit in the chair and they can go,
Yeah.
right? And why do they like that? It's because it's ego and it gives us adrenaline rushes.
Exactly. Like I used to watch cooking channel
Mm-hmm.
because I thought, okay, with respect to everything else that's happening in with all that number of options that they are to look at, uh, I looked at cooking channel as a place of relaxing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Only to realize, oh my God, how wrong I was. Not everything has to be done in a certain minute, and then we go, oh my God, he's not gonna make it. Oh my God, she's not gonna make it.
Oh,
Oh my God.
they have it contested.
Oh my God, it's so bad that you even don't want to watch that. It's worse than news now. So,
Yeah.
anyway, we're going to talk more about this right after our commercial break. Please join us. Welcome back to our commercial. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert at Heart to Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio Live. Please call us at 951-922-3532 so that we can understand about your perspectives and learn about your stories, as those are so valuable to us. And thank you for giving us your hour and sharing this program with us. So, Dr. Jaffe, we were talking about lose your ego, find yourself.
Lose your ego, find yourself. So, yeah. So we've been talking about the ego. The ego's main purpose is to keep us physically safe. When that is no longer an issue, that we are physically safe, it moves into emotions. And if someone disagrees with us, emotionally we feel threatened, and the ego picks up on that, and we go, that person is telling me I'm wrong. That means that I'm vulnerable. That means that I can be attacked. And so, and so what happens then is the ego jumps in and defends. And it doesn't matter whether its defense is based on logic or not. The ego basically says, my mind is made up, don't confuse me with facts.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't
Yes.
matter what the facts are. What matters is you're trying to make me wrong.
Right. And
Right?
then my mind is made up. Don't confuse me with facts. My mind is made up. That means this is my perception. This is my belief. This is my attitude. This is my feeling. This is my thought. And this is what I have learned how to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
when somebody says that, it's not that they are stubborn people or anything. It's this is how they have been raised, and therefore this is how they have developed their skills of communication, beliefs, and then put it all together, bring it into their real life in society and into their interactions.
So this short paper that we wrote, "Lose Your Ego, Find Yourself," is available to you. You can upload it, um, or you can contact the station and ask, and we will be happy to email it to you. And it has some interesting thoughts about the ego. And then what if we're not coming from ego and we're not concerned about being right and we're not concerned about survival, what is the other part of the human being? And the human part, I say, is the ego. That's the part of us that resides in our body and that is frightened that our body will get sick and will die. But the being part of us, that part is not our body.
Right.
That part of us is the energy configuration that surrounds and inhabits our body. Some people call it our spirit. Some people call it the soul. But that part of us is not concerned about being right. And actually, those are the people that we really look up to as icons.
Right.
The people who talk about love,
Mm-hmm.
who talk about kindness, who talk about appreciation, who talk about generosity, and are in fact generous. People giving their last dollar away. I was reading about the Holocaust
Mhm.
and how some people in the Holocaust would give their last crumb of bread to other people, and they who were starving and even in a worse condition than they were. And what allows a person to do that? It's certainly not their ego,
Right.
because their ego would say, "Hey, I'm going to get as much as I can, so I'm going to survive." But the people who give away their last crust of bread, or one of my clients who's very poor, gave $1 away to somebody she saw sitting, on the street. Dollar was a lot of money to her.
Right.
You know, what allows people to do that, and that is our soul or our spirit. And our spirit doesn't care about being right because our spirit is not confined to this particular time and place for its existence. Our spirit is energy. Einstein proved that energy is not created or destroyed,
Right.
it just changes form. So, since we are energy, the form that we are will change when our body dies. And what happens to that, that's up for debate, but we know that it's not going to go nowhere. Something is going to happen to it. It's going to
Right.
change form in some way.
Exactly. Right.
And that's the part of us that we need to get get clearer about inside of us so that we can be, as a human being, more in the being and less in the human.
And spirituality is not necessarily being religious,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Religion can include
Right.
spirituality, but it may not.
It may not. Yes. And spirituality is a different tone. And I have seen people that when we talk about spirituality, they say, "I only believe in God."
Hmm.
It is as though we are inviting them to. It's like we are advocating or introducing or advertising for a certain religion, but that's not the case. Spirituality. Uh, First of all, it takes practice to be a spiritual person, doesn't
It,
it?
it takes a an awareness
Right.
that part of us, which is in most people is underdeveloped,
Right.
that part of us is actually the most important part of us.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be able to understand yourself in that aspect, I think that's the uh, one phenomena part of being human being,
Hmm.
right? To
Hmm.
know yourself as a spiritual person and look at the world, the life to the life from the spiritual perspective
Hmm.
rather than from ego perspective,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because ego gives you nothing but fear and fear of survival. It is as though if you don't have the next bread in the market, you're gonna starve, the next day,
Hmm.
right? Whereas, as a matter of fact, spirituality takes you to a calm place where you are able to appreciate yourself. You are able to have gratitude for everything that's in the world for you, available to you, and have a life that is joyful versus fearful.
Yes. Yes. So, going back to the ego. So the ego is about survival, and the ego is about the accumulation of things. The ego is about external power in the world, power over other people. The ego certainly is about money. Uh, doesn't mean that people who have money are into ego, because you can accumulate money and be very generous with it. Tony Robbins is one such person. He has untold millions of dollars and gives a lot of it away. But the spirit's only desire, which is something we wrote in this paper, is to be authentic, to be fair, to join with the other person, and to love.
Right.
That's the spirit's purpose. And so the way you treat the other person, is that going to be from a place of ego, which is it's all about me, it's all about me feeling safe and winning, or is it going to be about me wanting to give you the love that I have inside, connecting with that, and feeling the kindness because you're another human being just like I am. And we both have to go through life and make our way as best we can. And in that way, we have more in common than anything not in common.
And exactly. I mean, they are parts of us that they are not, in common with each other.
A lot. Well, actually, we are all exactly the same in terms of being human,
Right.
but we're not the same in terms of our fingerprints, right? Our faces, our genetics. That's all different. But the human part is the most powerful because the human part is the fact that we're all one human family on this planet. And I learned that when I was very young, watching science fiction movies where aliens came down and the aliens were not human.
Mm-hmm.
The aliens had three heads. The aliens had six arms. The aliens didn't think like us, didn't have the same connection to other aliens. They didn't. They weren't sexual like we were. They were really alien. And when I saw that, and then I heard on the news, and this was when I was like 11, 12 years old, about aliens, meaning people from other countries, I started to laugh because I thought, wait a minute, are they really aliens? Or are they just people who live in other countries who are more like us than not like us? Show me a person who doesn't have an ego.
Yeah, exactly.
Show me a person who doesn't want the best for their family. Show me a person who doesn't want the best for their children. You know, show me a person who doesn't want to be involved with someone in a loving way. So are we all more alike or are we all more not alike?
Well, we are more alike. However, when it comes to personal approach, that's where we get in trouble.
Well, we get in
Yeah.
trouble because we focus on that as though the other person is an alien,
Right.
rather than this is another person who has found a way that makes sense to them.
You know, I have to say, as an immigrant to this country, I have felt that here a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There have been very recent moments. There have been moments at the beginning and several thousands and thousands of moments in between that I have felt I've been excluded or, uh, I mean, while I am
Treated as an alien.
treated as an alien, well, thankfully, I am now treated as a safe alien, but still an alien,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the beginning, things were different, but now even I see that many times among my very close friends, and while I am in the circle, but I'm still, they give me indications that sometimes by direct words that I am I am part of it. I definitely, I am a friend, but at the same time, yeah, the alien, still I'm an alien.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I face that, I get that pinch in my stomach. I feel it, it hurts. But then again, I remind myself, well, that's where, you know, my friends are, they are still at a place where at times it's hard for them to, um, I don't know, to welcome me fully or whatever is going on in their mind that I'm not aware of, right? But it's not something that I have done or I haven't done,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happens, as a person that I've been here for most of my life, it's been like 45 years now, but still I feel that I get that, it's not that I just make it up, makes me think, when is it going to be an end to this? Or
Yeah.
when is it going to be, over with, or it's not going to be
Yeah.
over with.
Well, you're talking. We're using the word alien. Another way of talking about it is simply to say is prejudice.
I don't know it's his prejudice. I mean, see, prejudice has a different definition, but welcoming somebody as an alien, it's not always about being prejudiced.
I think it is.
It
I
is.
think it is.
Okay.
Prejudice simply means to prejudge.
To prejudge,
So
yeah.
if you're
Okay.
looking at if you're looking at someone from another country and you are prejudging that person, not just as being different than you, which we all are, whether
Mhm.
we're from the same country or not,
Right.
but being
Mhm.
very different. To me, that's a prejudice.
Well, I'm not being treated as very different,
Mm-hmm.
significantly like that. But then again, sometimes I feel like 100% I'm not in the loop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not been done consciously, that's been
Mm-hmm.
done subconsciously on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you learn to live with that, and
Well, yes, yes,
and
yes,
that's where spirituality comes in,
yes,
not
yes.
the ego function,
Correct.
spirituality comes in.
Correct.
So we just got our notice that our program is ended, but we have a lot to say about ego and spirituality, and we are going to upload the documents to our webpage at KMET if that's doable, and we will let you know. And if not, we are happy to email it to you, or you can go to our website and download it yourself as well, or on our Facebook. And I think it is on our Facebook.
Mm.
So we are going to say goodbye for now, and until next week, don't forget that all you need is love.
All you need is love, and thank you for listening.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
The preceding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program.